Hey, I'm Ryan Kearns. I'm a food lover, fitness advocate, and a health and wellness aficionado. The problem is, the health and wellness industry is split into fragments. Different people advocate hard for different methods of weight loss, diets, exercises, and lifestyle rituals. But which ones are actually the best for our whole mind, body, and spirit? Is there one single way of living that can make us feel healthy and whole? Well, I'm on a journey to figure it out, and I'm bringing you with me. I'm interviewing the experts, teachers, and professionals behind the different health and wellness trends in our society. Success in every area of life starts with the foundation of taking great care of our bodies. And together, we will figure this out. This is the Love Food Lifestyle Show. Hey guys, you're in for a treat today. I got the chance to hang out with Jeff Morgan from Guilt Free TV. This guy is an absolute rock star. We talked about how he used to do gymnastics. We talked about vegan parenting, vegan bodybuilding, how to build muscle on a vegan diet. This guy knows his stuff. I had an amazing time with Jeff, and I'm so excited for you to see this. Let's do it. All right, so we got Jeff Morgan from Guilt Free TV. Welcome, Jeff. Thanks for being here. Super excited to talk to you today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Ryan. It's nice to be here with you.
Yeah, no problem. Super excited. So I just wanted to start off by getting into a little bit about your story. So I read on your website that you were a competitive gymnast for a while. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, when I was 12, I was watching the 1984 men's Olympic team, the U.S. men's Olympic gymnastics team win the gold medal. And I was watching that on TV, and I was sitting next to my dad, and I was looking at these guys doing the iron cross and handstand presses, and I was looking at just this incredible technique, skill, and the body that came with that. And I said, I want to do that. And he said, okay. So I started gymnastics at 12, which is a little bit late for most kids. Actually, my older son is a gymnast now. He started at 6, so he's kind of right on on track. So I did that through college, and I competed through college, and that kind of gave me the frame that I wanted. It was almost by accident that I developed a body like that, because I was more focused on having fun and doing the sport, and then the body was kind of just a bonus. And
Right.
So I started getting attention through college, and then I started really trying to understand more of the body. So I started studying physical therapy and how the body works, and kinesiology and physiology. And I just found this machine to be such a fantastic, incredible, thing that we could use to become kind of an example of health and fitness on the planet.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome. And so, what kind of gymnastics were you doing?
Well, it's called artistic gymnastics, which is the men's all-around gymnastics, which includes the rings, the high bar, the parallel bars, the pommel horse floor exercise, and vault. So I was doing all 6 events, and my best events, I think, were rings and parallel bars.
Nice. That's awesome. So then the obvious question is, do you still have it?
When I started my YouTube channel about 2.5 years ago, I gave myself a challenge to get the Iron Cross back. And what I noticed was, what I forgot actually, was that when I was learning that skill in college, it took me about 6 months of daily work to be able to hold myself up on the rings without bent arms. And it took a long time, daily practice, a lot of strength training, a lot of core training, and doing that skill over and over again with a lot of spotting. So I didn't really have that much help to do it. So I kind of went into it, felt my elbows a little bit, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna get out of it, because I had a little bit more altruistic goals with my channel, which was to build myself up so that I could attract attention and open up conversation for plant-based lifestyle.
Right.
So I kind of let that go in order to kind of build muscle, really.
Right. As someone that makes videos, we're always trying to twist and tweak our methods and figure out the best way that's going to allow us to spread our message even better. I completely understand that. And,
I can still do handstands and, backflips under the right circumstances. And,
nice.
If I'm on a trampoline, I can do some twisting flips and so forth. I still have a little bit of it, but not much.
Yeah, I can't imagine being able to do the Iron Cross thing that you were talking about. I use TRX bands sometimes at the gym. Even, trying to do like a regular regular muscle up with rings has to be so hard. I mean, I've never tried it, but I can't imagine it would be easy. Just doing push-ups with the TRX bands, you get all shaky, and it's a lot of core stabilization and trying to stabilize the body. So that's really cool that you can do that. I'm sure your kids look up to you, and now that they're into it, you get to sit on the sideline and help them out, right?
Definitely. Yeah. My oldest son took up gymnastics. My wife was also a gymnast when she was younger. So it kind of was a natural progression. So, he's a plant-based kid too. Both my kids are plant-based, and, he's got shoulders and abs and, muscles. And so we're not worried about his development at all on a plant-based diet. He's totally thriving.
Oh, good. Yeah. We're definitely going to get to more about children and stuff like that later, because I have 2 kids too. They're also plant-based kids.
Yeah.
I'm wearing my plant eater shirt today for the occasion. So I was wondering, what kind of training do you do today?
The training I do today is a progressive, adaptive method of bodybuilding. I started out about 6 months ago at 160 pounds, and I wanted to see how far I could go. Now, with my own knowledge as a personal fitness trainer and having, been educated in athletics and sports and fitness, I knew how to build muscle. But learning how to do it on a plant-based diet, learning how to eat correctly, and bodybuilding in and of itself it's almost a different category, because the training is different, the eating is different, and it's different in a way that you're trying to force your body to adapt to a different style of training and a different kind of intensity every so often, say every 3 weeks. I change my routine up. So the kind of style of training that I do now, and I've put on about 15 to 16 pounds in the last 6 months while staying relatively lean. So I could actually put on a lot more, a lot quicker, but I hate overeating. And it's hard for me to be in a calorie surplus. It's one of my things. So when people are like, what do you do on your cheat days? I'm like, I stop eating. Because I'm tired, and I can't eat a lot of junk food. I can't actually eat junk food at all anyway, because I have a hypersensitivity to refined sugars and oils. So it's hard for me to eat out. It's hard. I don't have any of those processed foods in my house. Those chips and burgers and all kind of fun foods that people get vegan style. I can't do those. So my training, it's kind of like right now, it's kind of a bit of a progressive overload. I do a push-pull legs split, where today, for instance, I'm doing chest, shoulders, and triceps, so all the pushing muscle groups for the upper body. And then tomorrow I'll do all the pulling muscle groups for the upper body. And then the third day I'll do legs, and then I'll repeat. And then I'll take a day off or so once a week. And but I train pretty hard. My goal while I'm training is to kind of take myself to the next fit level. So if I'm at a certain fit level, and say I just did 8 reps of a certain exercise, and I burn out and I'm feeling a certain way, in a couple weeks, I'm going to want that to be easy for me. And so what I find is after every couple months, and I make some adjustments in my training program, I find that not only am I stronger, I'm also bigger and I have more endurance. So I think muscular endurance is something that people don't necessarily consider when building muscle, because there's different kinds of muscle fibers. So I try to do a program that incorporates all of that.
Right. I've heard that switching, like what you were saying, switching it up and keeping it constantly changing, it allows your body to adapt and change, and it kind of forces your body to break down and then expand even more. Is that accurate?
Yeah, you're pretty right on. The body adapts very quickly. So say, for instance, you're a completely sedentary lifestyle and you haven't really exercised. 10 push-ups is going to be pretty tough. So how long is it going to take you before 10 push-ups becomes easy? It could take you about 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Of continuous exercise. Once you get to that point, you're going to see a change in your physique, and you're going to see a change in your strength. But once you get to that point, it's going to level off and stop. So you're going to have to up the game. And some people would add weight to that, add reps to that, add speed to that, and all those different, add a different angle, because you can do regular push-ups, you can do close grip push-ups, you can lean forward over your shoulders and do push-ups, you can do handstand push-ups, you can do all kinds of different things to increase intensity and resistance. And you're going to have to get to that place every, few weeks and make a shift.
Right.
So that you force your body into a, shock system where the body goes, oh my gosh, I have to adapt to this new thing that he's doing. And it doesn't have to be a huge change in your program. Just simply adding, 10 more reps, a few more sets, a slightly different angle can be really helpful.
Awesome. So you mentioned a lot of push-ups and stuff like that. Do you tend to use more body weight movements or free weights, or what's your take there?
I use kind of a combination of everything right now. I think body weight exercises are about 10-15% of my routine, where I do bar dips and pull-ups. The rest are machines and free weights.
Nice. Now I want to talk about the plant-based stuff and, what kind of like led you to that place of, okay, I want to eat a plant-based diet, even though generally speaking in the bodybuilding world and in the world of physical trainers, it might not be the most popular decision.
Yeah, it's not popular, and it's also taught. I mean, I've gone through personal training certification. I've gone through sports nutrition, and I've gone through plant-based nutrition in terms of certificates. So I see how both worlds teach about diet. And you can see how the fitness industry, the standard fitness industry, not the plant-based industry, the standard fitness industry is directly, intimately related with the animal agriculture industry, or the standard, the charts that they put out for the daily eating plate, the myplate.org,
Right.
and
The
the
food
organizations,
pyramid and stuff like that.
food pyramid. Yeah. So the agricultural industry is in direct working relationship with the fitness industry because they promote each other.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm, while I'm reading through my fitness manuals and everything, they're promoting the MyPlate, charts and so forth. And they're promoting, whey protein, and they're promoting animal products. So you can see how they're related. So going through that, I was able to kind of look and see how these industries are connected. Now, when I was in my 30s, a real genuine interest on my health became really apparent. I wanted to find the best new superfood. I wanted to find the best way to eat and to be healthy. And I thought by eating, clean, which most people is simply, meat and vegetables and, some complex carbohydrates like grains and starchy things and fruits, and maybe a little bit of dairy here and there, that you could be healthy. And that's what's considered a standard clean diet. But what I noticed, and with my hypersensitivity and my genetic disposition for certain health issues, I noticed that through my 30s, my health issues were getting worse. So I had things like rosacea, which is a skin condition on your face where it gets red and peels and breaks out. It's an inflammatory skin disorder.
Oh, wow.
And it can be quite embarrassing when it shows up on your face. And it was becoming more and more apparent as I got older. And I had some digestive issues like bloating and constipation. I had, a cyst on my ankle for like 20 years, like a little fatty cyst. I'm like, where did that come from and why is it still there? I had seasonal allergies that were getting worse every year. So by the time I reached my 40s, and on top of the inflammatory joint pain that I had, I wasn't doing too well. I still kind of looked okay because I had the frame that I had built through college and in my 20s. But in the back of my mind, I always knew that there was a better way. But I kind of wasn't willing to go there and accept that a plant-based diet or a vegetarian diet at the time that I was thinking about would be able to support my athletic goals. So I kind of pushed it aside and tried to drink wheatgrass juice and try to drink coconut oil and put all that stuff all over my face. And what a lot of people try to do, they're looking for some sort of topical treatment,
right,
or to take a shot of something to cure their ailments, when instead of adding something, what I had to finally understand was that I had to remove things that I was eating and that were pro-inflammatory and that weren't allowing my body to heal. So my wife would always mention a vegan diet and I would always dismiss it respectfully.
Of course.
Because I'm having a bowl of turkey trying to support my inflammation, I guess, and my muscles. And she was making chickpea omelets and she's like, why don't you try some of this food? And I tried it and it was really good. So I just had some of the things that she ate while I was continuing with my own thing. And while she was doing that on the side, she was also looking at documentaries and looking at videos and looking at the animal agriculture footage. She was also studying, getting into support groups. And it was really great because she developed a certain baseline of knowledge before I got into it. So she started kind of nudging me here and there. And so I finally agreed to watch a documentary. Actually, it wasn't a documentary. It was a lecture by Dr. Michael Greger called Uprooting the Leading Causes of Death. And I sat down and I watched the video from beginning to end. And I'm a logical kind of guy. And I was actually still skeptical about veganism and a plant-based diet. And so once I saw that video, I said, I can't argue with this. And something struck a chord in me. And the next day I was plant-based vegan. And that was it. So it was kind of overnight for me because that day I had a bowl of ground turkey.
Wow.
And that next day I was completely vegan and haven't put an animal product in my body since then. And that was about 4 years ago.
Do you think that other people do it like that, where they just quit cold turkey, and it's pretty literal in the sense that you just said because you were eating turkey?
Right.
But
Yeah,
do you think people do that, or do you think it's more like, what do you tell people to do if they are asking, should I just quit everything, or should I like slowly transition? Which one is better for beginners?
Whatever they feel is calling them, whatever they feel compelled to do. It's an individual process. I think most people do it gradually. It's almost like, when you see people worshiping gurus who became enlightened, suddenly. Everybody wants that sudden enlightened experience of, I'm vegan and this is great. Everything's great. But for most people, it's a transition process because we're dealing with habit and we're dealing with culture and traditions, things that are deeply emotionally rooted into people and beliefs. We're not just dealing with, I'm not going to eat that, I'll eat this. It's not that simple. People are dealing with judgment, from other people. So it's a big transition. So most people take it gradually. So I recommend whatever suits you. And, I'm not the kind of person that looks at someone and says, hey, you just got off milk, but you're still eating animals. That's bad. I say, you just got off milk. Fantastic. Celebrate that. Take the steps as you need to take them, as long as you keep taking your steps.
Exactly. I'm a firm believer in that as well. I was in a position where I was forced pretty much to go vegan. You know my story when I found out I had Lyme disease. I worked at a juice bar at the time, so that kind of leaned me in the right direction. It was kind of like intuitive. A lot of the stuff that you've been saying, I think that you have this intuitive eating type of mentality. Do you think that that's accurate?
Yes and no, because there's a certain learning curve that has to happen before anything can really become intuitive. So say, for instance, you learn how to drive a car. At first, you're worried about steering too much. You're worried about looking too far. You're worried about, drifting. You're worried about looking in the rearview mirror and all this stuff. And at some point, it becomes intuitive to you. But you practice enough that you can let go of the, initial learning curve. So that's kind of what it's like for me with regards to eating. And anybody says that says, I was really thin and I was eating this way and I just ate intuitively and became, and I gained 50 pounds of muscle. I would look at that skeptically because there's a big learning curve. Eating to grow is different than eating to maintain health. And that's why there's a big difference or separation between what the plant-based doctors, whom I've interviewed quite a few, recommend and what a vegan or plant-based bodybuilder would recommend. There's a difference. And so, eating for me was intuitive until I wanted to start really putting on the muscle. I had to figure out how many calories I needed to eat. I had to figure out my macro ratios. I was kind of resistant to that at first, but I had to figure out how many carbs I needed per day, roughly, And so for the first period of time, I was smashing down calories. And then I got tired of it. And then I was like, I don't want to eat so much. And so I decided to take a little break from calories and I stopped growing. I reduced my calories and I reduced my carbohydrates. And what I realized after a few weeks of plateau, I realized that I was undercarbed, not under protein, undercarbed. I wasn't eating enough carbohydrates to be able to sustain the energy and fill up those muscle cells like I needed to. So I charted my nutrients and then I realized what it means and what it feels like and what it looks like to get 500 grams of carbohydrates a day, 600 grams of carbohydrates a day. And I found out what that feels like and what it looks like throughout my day. So now I can let go of that and say, okay, have I eaten this many times a day? Have I eaten these kinds of foods? And if I have, then I feel like I'm on point. And if I haven't, and usually the missing piece, Ryan, in my day is there's usually one meal that I have to kind of say, I need to eat right now. And if I miss that meal, I'll be in a calorie deficit. If I get that meal, I'll be in a calorie surplus. So it's usually one meal during my day that if I don't feel like eating it and I don't, I'm in calorie deficit. If I do eat that full and big meal when I'm not necessarily hungry, then I'll be in a calorie surplus and I'll see my growth continue on its regular, curve.
So you find yourself consciously saying like, I need to eat this extra meal. Like, oh yeah. You ever think about setting like a reminder or something? Yeah, eat that meal.
Yeah. No, I don't set a reminder. I just, I get to a point in the day where I'm like, this is the thing. I can't let myself get hungry. That's really the thing. I have to eat, I get full, and just before I start getting hungry, I eat again. And just before I start getting hungry, I eat again. That's the method for me that I found very effective. And if I don't do that and allow myself to go 3-4 hours without eating, and then I get really hungry, and then I smash it in, and then my schedule is disrupted, then I find myself losing. And it's difficult when you're on a clean plant-based diet like I am, because I can't do a lot of processed foods. I can't smash in donuts and veggie burgers and all kinds of stuff that are filled with oil and sugar
Yeah.
just for calories sake. And a lot of plant-based bodybuilders will do that, and it helps them grow.
Yeah, and all those things are like the quick grab it and eat it type of food, whereas
That's right.
you're making your food from scratch. And
I have to make everything that I eat. I mean, I do have some processed foods like breads and whole grain breads and, whole wheat pitas and
Right.
some, sugar-free cereals and things like that. I have those kind of things, but that's really the extent of my processed food. So for me personally, it's really difficult for me to really smash in the calories throughout the day. So I have to just make sure that I keep eating consistently.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about the oil and sugar that you were referring to before. Why did you cut those things out of your diet? What have you noticed since you've done it? What's the deal there?
Yeah, I've had kind of a very strong drive towards health for many years. And I've always felt like I've wanted to find the food solution to my issues, to my health issues. And once I started doing that, when I removed animal products and some issues that had been plaguing me for 2 decades disappeared within 2 weeks, I thought, oh my goodness, this is a total miracle. And it totally fired me up. So I wanted to learn more and more about how to do that and how to handle issues. Once I cut out the animal products, my skin cleared up. It didn't completely clear up. I would say 70%. And then every once in a while, I'd have this flare up. And I'm like, what is it? Is it just sensitive skin? Am I still eating something that is bothering me? And then I took out oil, the refined extracted oils that, you add on food. So I took those out and my skin cleared up even further. So I went to like 80, 85%.
Wow.
And then one night I was hanging out with some friends, and with my own little limited diet, which is not limited in terms of the amount of different kinds of foods I can eat. It's limited with regards to the standard diet, where people have a lot of just, like you said, grab and go foods. I didn't have any of those. So my kids had some sugar cereal and my friends were eating all their snacks and things like that. And I was like, God, I want something sweet. So I got some sugar cereal. My stomach was empty. It was nighttime. I had some sugar cereal. And before I went to bed, I noticed there was immediate acid reflux. And then when I woke up in the morning, I had a flare up on my face. And so I realized that there was a direct correlation between what I just ate. Because another thing that I learned from the plant-based doctors is how quickly the food that you eat starts to impact you on a cellular level within minutes. Mm-hmm. And so that reaction was so quick that I thought that there was a direct correlation between the sugar and my acid reflux and skin issue. So I thought, wow, this is a pro-inflammatory extracted supplement, because sugar is really a supplement. It's not a food. It's an extracted concentrated thing that you add to things, and isn't that a supplement, right? So sugar is a supplement. I said, this is a really concentrated thing that's pro-inflammatory. I'm going to see what happens if I take it out. Now, when I took it out, I had withdrawal symptoms that I wasn't expecting. I was shaking and I had headaches and I had like fever type symptoms without any coughing, no sore throat, no earaches, no nothing. It was simply like I was going through, some rehab withdrawal.
Yeah, it's intense.
That lasted for almost a week. And I thought, man, this stuff is really powerful, and especially for me being hypersensitive. So I got rid of that. And that was harder than anything I think I've ever had to let go of. Oil was pretty easy. Animal products was easier than sugar. I got to be honest with you. So I got rid of that, and then my skin cleared up to about 90, 95%, and the rest is genetic. And that's what the doctors have been saying. There's a lot of skin issues in my family, and they said genetics play a small role, but they do play a role. Our diet turns them on and turns them off. So if I eat clean and I eat right, my skin's clear, clean, beautiful. If I eat a little bit too much of, maybe a little bit too much fruit, some of the more high glycemic fruits. If I have a couple bananas or a couple of this, and my body doesn't need all that sugar, it might show up on my face.
Right. Yeah, I actually cut oil out of my diet probably like 5 or 6 months ago. This show is mostly for beginners. How do you cook without oil?
It's actually pretty easy. You just get a nonstick pan, which I think everybody has anyway. I don't know anybody that doesn't have a nonstick pan. And I use simple things like a liquid aminos and water. And then I season my things with seasonings instead of oil.
Yep, I do the same thing.
It's pretty simple. I steam things, saute things in spices, water, and soy sauce.
Awesome. So now if you're using oil in your diet, you know that there's other options. You could just use water.
Yeah, you could use it's simple. And I think a lot of people should try it, at least for a little period of time, to remove the extracted oil. Some people are like, I feel like I'm eating clean, but I'm not losing the weight. And I feel like my skin should be clearing up, but it's not. And usually it could be attributed to those highly concentrated extracted things. And the people that are new to a plant-based diet, I don't know if they should worry about that right off the bat. I think they should kind of get their diet in order, make sure that the transition is comfortable and that they're not having too many hiccups. And then as time goes on, then you refine it more towards health. So, but cutting out oil can be a game changer for people because, you add a couple tablespoons in your salad, you add a couple tablespoons while you're cooking and you didn't realize it, but you just added 600-700 extra calories a day that you didn't need.
Yep, so true. So now I wanted to transition a little bit and talk about the skeptics of a plant-based diet and the people that don't believe in it, especially for bodybuilding and for putting on muscle, which is what you like to talk about a lot. And lately you've been making a lot of really, really strong videos. Anybody that's watching this, check out Guilt-Free TV on YouTube, dropping videos about calcium, protein, all of the things that people worry about the most when it comes to switching to a plant-based diet. They think they're not going to get these nutrients in their diet. So what do you have to say about that?
Well, first of all, I was a skeptic myself. So when I went plant-based, I was worried. I wasn't scared and like, oh, what are we going to do? It's just so crazy. I was just concerned because we have kids and I wanted to make sure that everybody was healthy. So I studied and I started studying and reading and watching lectures and got myself certified in plant-based nutrition. I started learning about where nutrients come from and that the mother source of all essential amino acids, which is what we need with regards to our bodies creating protein, the mother source of all of those amino acids are plants. So whether you eat the plant or whether you eat the animal, that all depends on what else you want along with that package.
True.
So with animal protein, you're going to get saturated animal fat, cholesterol, environmental toxins, stress hormones. You're going to get growth hormones and whatever else is on that animal because they're not giving these animals nice, clean, scrubbing bubble baths before they're slaughtered. You know, they're laying around in their own feces, walking around in their own filth, breathing in all those fumes that they're living in, and they go right to the slaughterhouse, killed and, you know, stripped. So there's all kinds of bacteria going on in that as well. You know, as far as being a skeptic, this is where real knowledge and real experience takes care of all of that. You can look at someone like me and say, okay, he looks healthy, he's bodybuilding, he's adding muscle, it must be working. But you have to have your own personal experience with it. And you have to be brave enough to actually try to get your nutrients from plant foods for a long enough period of time. Some people have to go through their cleansing phase as well until you realize that you can get everything that you need from plants. Calcium and magnesium and zinc, and these are all minerals that come from the earth. You know, if you go to a rock store, you're going to see all these minerals there. You know, so these are minerals that come from the earth. They make their way up into the plants that animals eat or that we eat, and we get our nutrients from them. Cows don't make calcium. They eat calcium. You know, humans don't make calcium. We eat calcium and our body utilizes it. And so calcium is already an element, a mineral that's already in the ground. So that makes their way up into the plants and it's consumed. So for nutrients like, you know, iron and calcium and folic acid and protein, you know, and the things that people are concerned most about, those things are abundant in plant foods, abundant. And all you really have to do is an online search for that stuff and you'll see.
True. Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, one of the things too is plant foods have magnesium in it, right? And isn't it like some ridiculous number of Americans are low in magnesium?
Right.
So like
And
some of these minerals are very, like they're more available in a plant-based diet than they would be in a regular diet.
yeah, a lot of the vitamins and minerals are. So if you were to go on any, you know, food logging site or food charting site and you put in chicken breast and then you go to another, you know, you look at the nutrients that food gives you, it'll be really high in protein and maybe some B vitamins, but it'll be high also in cholesterol, saturated animal fat, and so forth. So you'll see what that gives you. And then you put in the equivalent serving size of, say, beans, a certain kind of bean or something like that. And what you'll see is a completely different thing. You'll see less protein, but you'll see an incredible amount of micronutrients and fiber, which is what's lacking in the animal products. So like you said, there's an extremely large amount of people in the population that are magnesium deficient. Well, there's a huge part of the population that's produce deficient. So they're not getting their, you know, micronutrients from, you know, eating enough fruits and vegetables, really,
right.
and whole grains, which are loaded with iron and B vitamins and fiber.
True. People talk about macronutrients and calories and protein and everything, but then they kind of miss, you know, the whole conversation about micronutrients and getting all those important vitamins and minerals. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I would agree with that. I think most plant-based parents, which I think we'll segue into, most plant-based parents err on the side of micronutrients with their kids. My kids have to have their vitamins and minerals. They have to have their vitamins and minerals. So they kind of err on the side of a calorie light diet, a calorie deficient diet, which is not okay with regards to growing children. They need tons of calories. I mean, tons of calories, respectful to their size and their stomach size. They need calorie dense foods. Let's put it that way, instead of tons of calories. But adults usually will say, am I getting my protein?
Yeah.
First and foremost, am I getting enough protein? And what they really need to be focused on is, number one, wide variety, calories, and I guess this is number two, 1, 2, and 3. Wide variety, calories, and micronutrients through produce.
I completely agree with that. And since you brought up parents and plant-based parenting and stuff, I heard in another interview you say that you got your parents to switch to a vegan diet. And I've had the hardest time you could ever imagine trying to convince or even talk to my parents about eating vegan. I wonder if you have any tips or anything to say about kind of that older generation that seems to be a little bit more stuck in their ways, a little bit more conservative and not really ready to change.
I was fortunate because my parents always watched me learning about health and nutrition. And they saw me go through my physical therapy education. They saw me go through my personal training, fitness education. They saw me go through my nutrition education. And they saw me experimenting and trying things out on myself. And they saw me growing and gaining my health back and going through my own transitions and transformations. And so they were always inspired by that. So they always kind of took advice from me. But with regards to a vegan diet, I never, ever spoke to them about it. I never pushed it on them. I never asked them if they would do it. They simply, and I was living in Israel for quite a long time, over a decade, and they came out to visit me for a few weeks. And so they just said, hey, we know Jeff cooks well. We'll just eat what he eats while we're here. No need to bring in any extra food that we might want. And so we said, it's easy for us to do. So we did that. And we started making these plant-based meals for them. And my father was, I would say suffering, because it was an emotional suffering from high cholesterol for 30 years. So he was on cholesterol medication, statin drugs for 30 years, and high blood pressure medication for a shorter period of time. But he was on both of those medications, and he was on medications for the symptoms from those medications. And I saw him aging. I saw him aging relatively quickly, and I said, I don't like that. And my mom had always been battling with her weight. She was trying to get to her ideal body weight for her entire adult life and never managed to do it. And so once they went plant-based, my dad was off medication, all medication, within 6 months. And my mom reached her ideal weight within 6 months. They were like, total believers, because they did the experiment on themselves. So I was fortunate that I didn't have to convince my parents. Now, other people in my family, some other people that are close to me, I don't really talk about it that much because I know where they are. Mm-hmm. I just keep doing my thing. And I just keep spreading the message and spreading the word and proving to a skeptical modern day population that a plant-based diet really is not just, and I'm going to be on TV next week down in Southern California. I'm doing a morning news segment about health and fitness. And I'm really going to be talking about how health and fitness don't go together. They're always used in the same sentence, health and fitness, but they're not synonymous. So you can look fit and your diet can be eating you up inside and setting you up for some horrible stuff into your 40s and 50s. So I like to push that point.
Yeah. So I've always heard like it's more important to get your diet and what you're eating in place. And that basically trumps any training that you could ever do. As far as even weight loss. Yeah, I see exactly what you're saying there. So let's talk about vegan parenting and raising plant-based children. I know you were saying before about how it needs to be a calorie-rich diet. What about the parents that are saying, like, I can never get my kids to eat any vegetables, or, all they want is grilled cheese and mac and cheese and things like that?
Yeah, that's a good point, because if you get children used to the most concentrated sources of calories, and when I say calorie-dense foods, I'm not talking about grilled cheese sandwiches with oil. Right. I'm not talking about French fries that have been fried in oil. I'm talking about natural calorie-rich dense foods like the whole grains and the beans and the potatoes and sweet potatoes and any kind of, wonderful tofu and tempeh, those things that you can create things with. Mm-hmm. We make great pancakes and waffles here, like that one waffle picture I saw yours, which was really cute, that was shaped like an owl. That was cool. We make that stuff all the time, but with great whole grains. We use teff flour, we use whole wheat flour, we use buckwheat flour, and we use these things to make these nutrient-dense, calorie-dense pancakes. And they add a little maple syrup and some peanut butter, maybe a little carob chips because they don't do chocolate because of the stimulants in it. My older son can handle it, but my younger son can't. So we make foods that are calorie-dense foods. Kids are so used to the most stimulating taste bud sensing foods that anything else is bland and they don't like it. So what I recommend for parents is to really try to, first of all, make your diet the example. And these foods have to be available to your kids on a regular basis. But that's not necessarily how it always works out, that what you eat, the kids will eat. So what we do is we, make shakes for them, and we put spinach and walnuts and dates, bananas, some soy milk, and, some ground flax and all that kind of stuff in a shake. And because the fruit's so dominant, they absolutely love it. And so they're getting omega-3 fatty acids. They're getting fiber. They're getting the greens and the vitamins and minerals that these things give them. And it tastes great. They've just gotten used to that. Now, we hide greens or spinach in sauces. And my wife makes awesome, honestly, I don't really know how to say them in English, but these, they're kind of like loaves, kind of like cakes, but she makes them with like corn and a certain kind of whole grain flour. And she'll put spinach in there, and she'll put some great seasonings in there. And they come out with like these really cool, like a banana loaf, but it'll be like a zucchini loaf or a spinach loaf. And because there's corn in there and some good seasonings in there, the kids absolutely love them. And so it's a great way to hide stuff in there. So to put greens and veggies and stuff and fruit and nuts and seeds and things like that into shakes and sauces, and it's a really good way to do that for kids. And the good old-fashioned peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I mean, get some whole grain bread. If your kid doesn't have a peanut allergy, some nice organic, fresh, peanut butter that's just peanuts, or peanuts and some salt, and 100% fruit spread, and good to go.
Yeah, like my daughter loves peanut butter and bananas. That's like she eats it every day. That's like her thing.
And that's a calorie dense meal.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of parents, and we used to know a lot over where we used to live, that were more of the earthy type of mentality, which we love because we like to go sit out in nature. But the kids were eating, fruit and veggies all day, and were malnourished because they were underweight and not growing well. And so I think that can be a mistake that parents make because they're focused on vitamins and minerals. But, let's get these kids the calories they need.
Yeah, and definitely try and work in some fats as well, right? Because brain development and everything revolves around fat, peanut butter and seeds, however we can fit that in there. And that's also a pretty good source of calories for a plant-based diet.
Yeah, absolutely. Nuts, butters, and nuts and seeds and so forth. Yeah, those are great.
And just to touch on for other parents, you were talking about smoothies. I don't know if your kids are the same, but my daughter just loves the different colors that we can make out of it. So we experiment with different things like adding mostly strawberries so it turns pink, or whatever her favorite color is that week. We try and match that color, and then she loves it, and she ends up drinking the whole thing just because of the color of it, and then she's getting all that nutritional value. So it's amazing if your kid's into colors and stuff like that.
Yeah, throw some dragon fruit in there, frozen dragon fruit, and you'll see a bright pink shade.
Yeah, sometimes we put beet in there too.
Yeah, good idea.
How do you think that being a father kind of affects your thought process behind your health journey? Because you were into health and wellness way before you had kids, I'm guessing, from your story. Do you think that it increased, or what's its role in health and wellness and your kids?
Yeah, well, now that I'm responsible for these two boys, I definitely feel that there is a greater responsibility to ensure their health. And the healthier I am, because I'll be 47 this summer, and they're still young. So I need energy and I need my strength. I got married later and had kids later, so, I'm an older dad to young kids. And so I need that strength. So I need them to be healthy, and I need them to be good plant-based examples. And the great thing about interviewing these plant-based doctors is that as soon as I mentioned that I have plant-based kids, they're like, whew, okay, well, that's settled. Your kids will be fine. And And that's the kind of just the consensus across the board. And with my, you know, conditioning through the years of training and having the industry, you know, in my consciousness all the time on what's needed, you know, the habits are long lived and the beliefs are long lived. So for me, my challenge has been getting over my own insecurities about the whole thing. They've been fine. My kids' health went from poor to great extremely quickly once they switched to a plant-based diet. And to my surprise, because I was the skeptic, and to my joy, that my kids were no longer sick on a regular basis and no longer suffering on a regular basis and are growing the same as all of the growth rates, you know, as the other kids in school. I don't compare my kids to the growth of the other kids. I compare the growth rate. As long as they're growing at their specific rate, you know, I'm totally happy with that. And we get their blood tests done every once in a while, and they don't like that, but you know, we make sure that they're on point. So as a father, it has become really important for me to study and keep learning and make sure that they get everything that they need. And my wife's like, you know, every once in a while she's like, you got to relax. These are the healthiest kids I know. You know, my instincts are protection, and I feel that I want to protect them through diet. You know, we're in an age where there's so much misinformation, so much processed food, and so many animal products at the snap of a finger. And I've worked with a lot of children in my adult life, and I see every generation, you know, that I've worked with in terms of kids get less and less healthy. And, you know, kids are getting fatter and sicker much younger, and girls are going through puberty a lot earlier. And I'm witnessing it, you know, because I'm going to be, you know, 50 in a few years. So, you know, I grew up through the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and I've watched, you know, all kinds of stuff happen with regards to the standard diet, and it just keeps getting worse and worse. And so for me, protecting my kids is not just keeping them from physical harm, it's keeping them from the harm that these food industries are doing to them. You know, I see that sense of responsibility in protecting the kids from the harm that the misinformation, and these food items can do to them. Yeah. You know, as soon as they leave the house, they get to make their choices. Mm-hmm. But I want to set them up in the best way that I possibly can for success with their health. You know, say from infancy to their teenage years, all that imprinting that's going on within their system and within their brain, we can make the best, healthiest impact on them. They're going to be set up for success. And the interview that I just had with Dr. Clapper last week, you know, after the interview was over, I was still recording, and he just said, you know, your kids, every plant-based meal after meal after meal for years and years, they're going to be set up to be so disease resistant that you're going to be doing one of the best things you could ever do for them. And that's really my goal for my kids, is to set them up with good values, good health, and well-being. So when they enter the world, they'll have that base. If they decide to do some things that I don't agree with, that's their thing, but they're going to be set up well. That's my job.
Yeah, I always think about it in like the same way, where it's like, all we can do is show them, you know, the facts, and show them what we know, and show them, you know, what we do and the decisions that we make. And then, you know, the rest is up to them. So that's kind of what parenting is. And it's a ride for sure.
Yeah. The one thing I want to mention that was kind of funny, a couple of years ago, you know, my children know me for being muscular. I'm not a huge guy, but they know me for being muscular and fit. There was a time where my son, he didn't really understand fitness and nutrition, but he saw someone else walking by that had muscles, and he goes, "Oh, Dad, he must be vegan," because that's his association. Yeah. And that was my goal. That was one of my goals, is to show my kids the association between a plant-based diet, health, and fitness.
Yeah, that's amazing. What if everybody had that thought pattern, you know? If everyone was like, wow, he must be a vegan because he looks so amazing.
And that's what we're trying to do here.
Yeah, that's so cool. So this has been amazing. I'm going to wrap up now. I don't want to take too much of your time, but I actually have one more question that I'm going to ask everyone that I do an interview with. If you could give someone only one tip, right? You can't give them any other information, but you can give them one tip to live the healthiest lifestyle that they could ever live. They want energy, they want to be able to thrive, but you can't say vegan diet. It has to be something a little bit more in depth or a little bit different than that. What would be your one thing to live the healthiest lifestyle?
Make the way that you feel about yourself and the way that you think about life and your beliefs more important than what anybody else thinks. Because I think that if someone has that value, and I don't like to say don't care what other people think. Mm-hmm. I like to say make what you think and your connection with a higher being the most important thing in your life, because comments will come in, beliefs will come in, influence will come in, and and people are going to be swayed all over the place from what other people are saying and thinking around them. And I think intuitively, when you get rid of all of the garbage, we know what's good for us. We know that plants are good for us. We know that being kind to other people is good for us. We know that compassion is good for us. We know these things. It's written within our hearts. It's already there. So when you remove the layers of opinion and trying to impress and trying to do things according to what other people are thinking about you, which is very easy to do on social media today.
Yes.
I got a comment and I changed my thing. I got a comment and it ruined my day. I got a comment and I started, losing weight uncontrollably because I'm so sick of what people are saying about me. It's like there's a camera on them at all times, and you have to just remove that and say what I feel is the most important thing, regardless of what others, somebody else says about it. And I think with that compass, it will take you in the right directions.
I love that. That was actually a really profound and good answer. And Jeff, this has been amazing. Where can people find you, Jeff?
They can find me on YouTube at Guilt Free TV. They can find me on Instagram at Guilt Free TV, Facebook Guilt Free TV all over the place.
And I'm going to link all that stuff down below in the show notes. And I just wanted to say thank you, Jeff, for everything you've done for me. You've been a mentor. You've been helping me. You even taught me to use Zoom for this interview, and you've been helping me all along the way, and I appreciate all your support, and I appreciate everything that you're doing for the plant-based bodybuilding vegan movement. And I just wanted to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for everything.
It's my pleasure, and we're all in this together, so it helps me to help you. So I'm happy to be here and happy to be available to your audience.
All right, guys, until next time. Well, there you have it, guys. So leave me some feedback below. Let me know what you think about the show so that we can improve, get better, and try new things. Push that subscribe button below, and we will see you next time. Peace.